Greetings, survivors of the Corona Apocalypse. It's your old pal, King Waspinator here. And I have a prediction. Something occurred to me earlier this afternoon, and I've been thinking about it, and I think I have foreseen the conclusion for the final episode of Star Trek Picard, which as of now is five and a half, 6 days away from premiering. Okay, so here it goes. Shit. That might help if people are able to hear me clearly. Okay. I think what this is all leading up to is obviously the synths on the synth paradise planet are going to be able to send off a transmission that will get the attention of these super sentient AI that live beyond time and space in some sort of intergalactic federation. And they're going to show up, and they're going to, like, one of them is going to manifest themselves in some sort of like physical avatar, and Picard will have a chance to talk to that synthetic, super synthetic avatar to talk them down out of destroying humanity and, you know, trying to come up with some sort of equitable balance between organic and synthetic life. Here is the twist. That entity is going to be Data. This is how they're going to bring Data back. Data was not destroyed in Nemesis. Data ascended like Daniel Jackson in Stargate SG-1. See, there's a couple of clues. Michael Chabon, who's running the show, is actually, you know, a good storyteller, and a key factor in crafting any sort of good story is that your resolution to events should somehow tie to some key critical factors that have been present in the story since the very beginning. And what did the Star Trek Picard open on? A dream sequence of Picard playing poker with Data and chiding him for not being able to, you know, bluff Picard properly. So, with that in mind, with the hints they've hinted at, with things saying just ridiculous stuff like, you know, all it takes is just one neuron of the positronic brain for the entire system to be reconstructed, and therefore Data could be recreated somewhere out there. Through some sort of contrivance of either, like, you know, internal awareness, you know, his act of self-sacrifice, or because these alien beings have been watching him. Data is part of this intergalactic synthetic federation that exists beyond time and space. And another solid clue is, why would there be a section in the message, in the admonition thing, that shows Data's face? Why would Data be in a 200,000-year-old transmission unless Data himself is one of these robots that exists outside of time and space? Now, earlier, I was thinking that this was going to be how Q would show up. I had heard rumors that Q was going to show up at the very end of the season. However, I've not heard a single pip or hint that John Delancey has at all been tapped, and which you know, I mean, I'd like it if Q would show up. You know, if Picard has just managed to screw things up so badly by running off on this stupid little adventure, that Q just kind of shows up and kind of fixes everything and freezes everything and is like, Jean-Luc, what the fuck are you doing? Kind of a moment. But there hasn't really been much to directly hint at a Q intrusion at the very end of the season. It could happen, but But there are things about Data. This series is just so data-driven. And there's also, you know, there's an interview that I saw that didn't think much at the time, but where Brett Spiner was being interviewed, and he said something about, like, you know, and that's how Data's going to come back. You know, in the form of his grandchildren or whatever. he hesitated after saying Data comes back, and then he I can't remember exact words, but he like smoothly finished it off to make it sound like he was just making a dramatic pause. But I think for a second he slipped and almost gave out some critical information that would spoil the evolution of the series. But yeah, what Picard has been is ultimately just the TNG search for Spock in terms of getting Data back. And it's not going to be through the form of Daj or Soji or Sutra or whatever. I hope that girl's getting paid good for playing all these roles. Also, how come like no one's complaining that they got an Asian actress painted yellow with yellow eyes in episode 9 of Star Trek? Oh, anyway. Yeah, I think Data's going to come back. Now, there is the red letter media theory that at first I kind of scoffed at. But after having actually watched episode 9 last night, I kind of feel like, wow, maybe Rich Evans is right. But what if the Borg were, created as a defense mechanism against synthetic destruction and apocalypse? That the only way for organics to be able to fight back against synthetics is through the use of bionics and perfect unity of thought and form and all that kind of stuff to quell down on the chaotic individualistic nature of humans that makes it hard for humans to stand against the robotic perfection of super sentient synthetic federation that exists beyond time. It's whatever stupid stuff. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Data's going to come back. And if there is going to be any sort of action sequence, it's going to be because Picard has to embrace his Locutus side at long last and get plugged into the Borg cube and use the Borg cube's defenses to somehow protect him and his crew and all the Romulans that are attacking the planet. We'll see how it goes. Episode 10, well, I already thought we'd hit a low with Into Darkness years ago, and episode 9, after a long time of trying to stay positive about the newer Star Treks, episode 9 of Star Trek Picard was worse than Into Darkness. I mean, it's not necessarily that any of the individual concepts or components that they introduced in that episode in and of themselves are bad, but none of them were properly set up. They were just rushed through, and it was just too much too fast, too jarring. I know they've done some stupid stuff with Spock mind melding with people through walls, and in the cartoons especially, he's like mind melding with the ship and stuff. But in the actual live action, quote unquote, serious shows, the idea that an android is going to be able to mentally uplink with a human. I mean, it's plausible and that Data was able to, perform a Vulcan neck pinch because he has the physical strength in his hands to perform a Vulcan neck pinch. Plus, he's also got the precision and knowledge of, chakras and all that other kind of stuff, or whatever space chakras Vulcans use. But that's not the same as Data learning how to mind meld. And off topic. Like I said, this is my official prediction for episode 10. Perfectly happy if I'm wrong. I'm not even sure if happy is the right term for it. Like, no matter what it does in episode 10, it would take a just goddamn miracle for it to somehow salvage how just offended I feel after watching episode 9. And it's not like I use that term lightly, because after all, I've been trying my hardest to put a positive spin on Star Trek Discovery for 2 years now, in spite of all the things that it's done. And it's been hard. It has been really hard trying to put a positive face on all these things. It's not like I haven't been aware of this whole time. It's just something about my upbringing. Star Trek's just always just kind of been sacred to me, so I'm consciously willing to go a little extra in its defense, but I can't keep fighting a lost cause. And episode 9, et in Armin Ergo Ego Arcadia, or whatever its title is. Whew. No thank you. Not anymore, buddies. Not anymore. So anyway, that's what I have to say about what I think episode 10 of Picard's going to feature. Data's going to come back as a Daniel Jackson ascended synthetic being. And Picard's going to have to, appeal to his memories of his time with mortal man to get him to convince the rest of the ascended synthetic Federation of space-time dwelling robots to leave the poor, innocent, organic life forms of the galaxy alone this time. And finally, have some peace. Which I guess, in theory, is Star Trek-y. Like I said, separately and individually, a lot of the various components of this show are all perfectly acceptable Star Trek things. But it's just all crammed together wrong. And especially just the amount of stuff that they did. Every 5 minutes, they're just throwing some other new weird thing that completely throws everything you thought you knew about the Star Trek universe topsy-turvy. It was like Ryan Johnson times 1,000. It's just no thank you. No thank you. Anyway, guess I gotta get back out there to brave this terrible wasteland of our corona apocalypse. And so, from me to you, be sure to have a Waspination good time. Get waspinated, hit like and subscribe, and all that other good stuff. And I'll see you on the roads, Bronze. Because we remember the Knight Rider.